Rode recently announced a ton of new gear, a veritable slew of new gear, and some of it is sort of expected and interesting. Some of it is new, unexpected, and exciting, and some of it is new and a little bit maybe concerning, at least to me, or unclear, I guess you could say. In fact, there were so many announcements that they actually condensed it all into a single video. So let's hop over here and go through that video together and break down some of this gear, especially because none of it is available yet. So there's a lot of fun to be had with sort of sharing thoughts and speculating and just kind of having some fun with it. This video is available on Rode's official YouTube channel. It's 9 minutes long, and we're going to go through some of the highlights. So the video starts out explaining that this is basically everything they were planning to announce at NAB 2026, and then they did announce it. So some people who went to NAB were able to actually see and use this gear in person. Unfortunately, I was not able to go to NAB this year. Well, I say unfortunately because I missed NAB, but fortunately because I got to go to Final Fantasy XIV Fan Fest, which was fantastic. Fantastic. So that being said, that's the context of this video. Let's see what they're talking about.
This year, we're unveiling a revolutionary new microphone technology set to redefine audio capture, a next-generation professional UHF wireless system built for total reliability, powerful new studio tools designed to improve workflow, and
hardware,
an entirely new way to produce podcasts quicker than ever before.
And a new way to produce podcasts.
So sit back and settle in for a sneak peek at everything coming soon out of Rode HQ, beginning with the future of sound. This is Sonaura, the world's best silicon-based studio-grade microphone technology platform. Sonaura represents a fundamental shift in microphone engineering. For decades, professional microphones have relied on traditional capsule architectures, but Sonaura changes that. Measuring just 4mm by 5mm, Sonaura unlocks applications that were previously impossible for studio-grade microphones.
So this one, Sonaura, is not a specific product they announced, but it's almost like a technology they announced. The thing that it reminded me of very much was when Apple announced that they were producing Apple Silicon and making their own, chips and processors and stuff. And then after that, we saw, the M series processors come out, which turned out to be pretty amazing and revolutionary. It kind of feels like Rode is looking to do the same thing with this. When they're talking about microphone capsules, this is my Lewitt LCT 440. You see the gold thing in there? That is the capsule, and that is basically the part of the microphone that actually captures sound. Same thing that's happening here in the Rode Procaster running through my Rodecaster Pro, two different products. There's a capsule in here, and that is capturing sound. I won't pretend that I understand how microphone capsules work, but what it seems like Rode is saying here is that this is sort of a new type of capsule or even an alternative approach to traditional capsules, and it is super, super tiny, as you can see by the hand and the fingernails here. But if it's essentially something very small that lets you get the same quality you would normally get out of a large microphone, that does really open up a lot of possibilities. I don't know if it's equivalent to a condenser or a dynamic microphone or if it's its own new kind of separate thing. But think of, lavalier microphones, think of wireless microphones, which are already pretty tiny, but they do tend to have a very specific sound, especially a lot of times, lavalier microphones, even really good ones, kind of require a bit of processing and a bit of EQ to really, really sound good. Or if you're going to mix them with like studio microphones like this, it can kind of be jarring a bit to go back and forth. Imagine if there was something this small that gives kind of a similar sound to a big microphone like this. That would be really cool. That would be kind of amazing to have, a nearly invisible like lavalier type microphone that sounds as though I have a big studio microphone in front of my face, but I don't have to have this whole thing in front of my face. I would definitely not hate that. So here's some more of the tech specs of Sonaura.
An industry-leading signal-to-noise ratio of 83 dBA. A self-noise measurement of just 11 dBA. The quietest silicon-based audio platform ever made.
Now, again, I won't pretend to understand that I know what a silicon-based audio platform is, but if we're looking at this as, the new guts of a microphone, essentially what they're claiming is that it is incredibly quiet. And so if it has big microphone sound and little microphone self-noise, that's cool. I'm on board for that, and all the different ways that you could use that for spoken word, for music, and maybe for applications that I'm not even thinking of yet.
Sonaura also introduces sealed dual membrane technology.
Now, I've been saying for years, sealed single membrane technology is one thing, but its dual membrane technology is the thing I really want. I have no idea what this means.
Making it dramatically more resilient than traditional microphone designs. It's ultra-resistant to shocks, environmental conditions, and radio frequency interference, delivering reliable studio-grade audio.
Okay, so there they just showed someone putting on a lavalier microphone, and that looked like just the lavalier 2, the one that they already have, but at least it would indicate that the initial use of Sonaura would be in small microphones.
Whether you're recording in a controlled studio environment or out in the field.
But now here we're seeing the Interview Pro, which again already exists. It's not using Sonaura unless this is like a prototype version, but maybe it is. Again, them showing that it could be used in a wide variety of microphones, which is interesting. Not just tiny, but also larger, more traditional studio mics. So that's Sonaura, which is more of a concept that they introduced and not a specific product that's available now. The next announcement is the first new specific product that they're announcing.
Meet RodeLink 2, our next generation professional UHF wireless microphone system.
So Rode used to have a UHF wireless system called RodeLink, which was pretty great and people liked it. I never used one, but I knew that the reviews of it were pretty good. And then it's sort of funny because as soon as they started really going hard on like the Rode Wireless Go and the Wireless Micro and all the 2.4 gigahertz systems, and those were becoming more and more popular, like people were getting into wireless audio, Rode discontinued their RodeLink, their UHF system. And so for years now, they really have not had a UHF option. Whereas other brands like Sennheiser, Shure, Sony, Saramonic, Deity, they all have UHF options. And if you're unfamiliar, the difference between 2.4 gigahertz and UHF, 2.4 is the same frequency that like everything runs on, like wireless stuff, Bluetooth things. So it is a very crowded frequency, and when you're using wireless mics in that frequency, they can be prone to interference. I will say, going back and using like the original 2.4 gigahertz wireless systems in like 2019, 2020, those seem to be pretty susceptible to interference. More modern ones really seem like they've gotten better. And you can go to conventions like NAB, you can go to really crowded environments and not have too many issues with interference. I don't know what has been done to improve that, but it seems like every brand pretty much, at least all the reputable ones, have really upped their game, which has then kind of made UHF a little bit less necessary for, I don't want to say non-professional, but maybe the consumer and prosumer market. If you're doing professional broadcasting, professional filmmaking, you probably still want to lean towards UHF for a number of reasons. But UHF, the benefit being that it is significantly more reliable when it comes to not being prone to interference. You have a lot more control over which frequencies you're using, so you can even use different systems in the same location on different frequencies. Everything's not just sharing the same frequency. And oftentimes the audio quality does tend to be a little bit higher. The devices themselves tend to be a little more robust. They tend to have interchangeable batteries. They're just kind of leveled up to a more professional workflow. And they also then are also a little more expensive usually.
The system includes 2 transmitters and a dual channel receiver, allowing you to record multiple sources simultaneously with total confidence.
See, that's actually very interesting because it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe like the Deity Theos and the Saramonic K9, dual transmitter UHF systems didn't used to be super common. That was more of a rare thing. And so it's very cool to see that the RodeLink 2 is a dual transmitter system.
Each transmitter is paired with a broadcast-grade lavalier microphone, delivering exceptional...
Oh, and that's an important point too, is if you're used to the 2.4 gigahertz system where the transmitter has a microphone built into it, UHF systems, that is usually not the case. You pretty much always have to attach a lavalier microphone to it.
RodeLink 2 also features 32-bit float onboard recording, capturing pristine audio directly to micro SD.
Here we go. This is where you start to see some differentiation in UHF systems versus 2.4 gigahertz systems. Some of the more high-end 2.4 systems, like the Rode Wireless Pro, the DJI Mic 2, Mic 3, they have onboard recording, and you can do 32-bit float on board, which is really cool for redundancy, especially if you are worried about interference. You can record on board, and then if there is interference, you can just use the audio that you recorded directly and not have to worry about it. But what is kind of nifty here is that we are using a micro SD card, which at first might not seem as convenient as having built-in recording, but the fact that you can then change the card, change the capacity of the card, swap out cards, save audio and still use the transmitter to record. It does kind of add some versatility and some redundancy that's really nice. And you can see here, they have not talked about it yet, but you can see there is a replaceable rechargeable battery, so it doesn't have built-in batteries, which is a huge downfall to pretty much every wireless 2.4 gigahertz system.
For professional productions, a dedicated timecode I/O port makes syncing audio and video effortless. And with a rugged metal body and long-lasting battery life, RodeLink 2 is designed to perform in the most demanding environments.
So that's another thing too with UHF systems is they do tend to be very, very robust and made out of metal versus the plastic of a lot of 2.4 gigahertz system, even the higher end ones. So the UHF system is actually, I think, what I might be most excited about in all these announcements, because it's cool to see how Rode is approaching UHF after everything they've learned from the 2.4 gigahertz, craze that has exploded over the past few years. The thing, though, that is notably missing from that is an XLR option. So I'm curious if that's something that might be added in the future. Right now, it just has the traditional transmitters that you plug in 3.5 millimeter microphones to, but something that's incredibly helpful, I have Sennheiser and Shure versions of this, is XLR transmitters. So you can connect them to handheld XLR microphones. You can be ridiculous and make wireless SM7B setups like I've done before, which is just a lot of helpful versatility and opens up a lot of different microphones that you can then use wirelessly. It'd be really cool to see if they add some sort of XLR transmitter option, even if it's something you have to buy extra. And now we're jumping into something that is kind of crazy Rode does not have yet, which is a low profile mic arm. That's what I'm using right now. Not the Rode one. I'm using the Elgato Wave Arm Pro. I very much like low profile arms because they do exactly this. They keep the arm mostly out of the shot versus having kind of a tall thing that would be blocking the shot and getting in the way. So let's see how Rode is approaching their first ever low profile arm.
Rode's range of studio arms has become a staple in podcast setups and studios around the world. Now, we're thrilled to announce the range is expanding with the LPA1, a professional low-profile studio arm engineered to add the sleekest aesthetic yet to your content. Designed to sit neatly below the camera's line of sight, the LPA1 keeps creators visible on screen while maintaining the perfect microphone placement.
So let's go here and look at the design of this, because it actually does not look much like any other existing arm. So we have two segments here. We have the base, and then we have, the arm that the microphone is connected to, and then we have the mount. I'm actually pretty excited about this, although I do have a couple of questions. One, I can see that there's cable routing. That's what these little clips are up here. That's always a good thing. It's funny because Rode's PSA-1 Plus have very noticeable branding. They have very bright Rode logos, basically 4 of them on each arm, 2 on each side on the top, 2 on each side on the bottom. It's very, very distracting. So it's interesting that the low profile arm it goes in the exact opposite direction. There's a, color matched simple logo on the bottom, and then the top of the arm is literally designed to it looks like it's designed to kind of disappear and be as invisible as possible, which is great. That's really what you want, especially in a low profile arm, is for it to be as discreet and invisible as possible. Looking over here though, this is where I'm sort of curious. If we look at the arm I'm using right now, the Elgato Wave Arm Pro, these segments are pretty thick, and this one has a pneumatic tube in it. So that means it's very easy to move up and down and adjust without me having to fiddle with, any knobs or anything. I still have to adjust this knob if I want to change the microphone here, and then there's a ball mount that lets me change different directions. This is not a perfect mic arm, but overall, this has been my favorite low-profile arm for a couple of years now. Since it was released, this has been the one that has been on my desk that whole time. Looking at the Rode arm, since it's trying to be invisible, there's obviously no room for a pneumatic tube or anything. So I see a knob here that's going to be the tension adjustment. And this is something that could be good or bad. I won't know until I get to use it or someone else gets to use it and lets me know. If that's something that is really, really strong and easy to adjust, it's easy to loosen, you move, you tighten it, and when you tighten it, it just stays there. It doesn't do the thing where the arm kind of sags because it's just like a cheap friction mount. Then this could be great. If there's some kind of toothed mechanism in there that lets it really lock in, then that'd be pretty fantastic. And the same goes for the mounting point over here. I see another lever here, so it depends on how strong and robust that is. Even the one on my arm here, this is a friction ball mount, which works okay, but it's not nearly as strong as, a toothed mount would be. And it looks like the end of this is kind of just okay. It's sort of the same design that's on like every type of mic arm, which is 90% good enough. And I've talked about this in a lot of other videos. There are a few things that some manufacturer at some point will need to do that allows for a lot more flexibility and stability, and that's going to make the mic arm better. That's suffices to say I've shared my opinions and ideas with all of these companies, and none of them have yet to implement them all the way.
And with a load capacity of up to 2 kilograms, the LPA1 confidently supports a wide range of professional microphones.
Okay, how many pounds is 2 kg? 4.4 pounds. Okay, that is a pretty strong mic arm. That's good. That can hold basically everything that you would want to put on a low profile arm. And a lot of times too with low profile arms, people end up using them for things besides microphones because they are good for small lights and things like small cameras and stuff too. Now this one, I'm a little confused about, the DS3.
For creators working on desktop-based setups, we're also introducing the DS3, a compact desktop studio arm designed for stability and flexibility.
The reason I'm confused about this is it wasn't that long ago, a year-ish ago, that Rode announced the DS2, which is very, very similar. I have, 3 or 4 of them. They work really well. I use them in actually, here's one. I have one literally sitting right here, the DS2. It's pretty great. It's very sturdy. It's kind of expensive. It's like $90, and it's actually very strong. Like these levers, when you lock these in, even though they're just friction mounts, they don't go anywhere. So this is super strong, super sturdy, but now they're already replacing this with the DS3, which makes me wonder what was wrong with the DS2 that it needed a replacement so quickly.
Elegantly designed, its heavy weighted base provides exceptional stability
This
without
also
the
has a
need
heavy
for
weighted
clamps
base.
or mounting points. A precision ball head
There
enables
it is.
smooth, controlled positioning for microphones.
That, I think, is the primary difference. The DS2 does not have a ball head. It just has this that goes, up and down. And so when you're trying to position other microphones, especially microphones that are in shock mounts and directional, then it can actually be kind of difficult to do that. You kind of have to use this little locking nut, and then it comes loose. And now they've just replaced this with a ball mount. That actually makes a lot of sense. That alone could be worth the upgrade, I guess.
With universal mounting compatibility and included clips for tidy cable management, the DS3 is a versatile addition to any modern creator work.
The DS2 does not have any cable clips, so I just usually wrap it around the base, or sometimes if it's a USB cable, you can kind of thread it through these holes, but there's no cable management in the DS2. So I see how they actually did make some improvements with the DS3, and it actually looks, I don't know if they mentioned this, but here, it almost looks like you can store the extra adapters just on the stand itself, which is nifty. And then I don't know what's going on with the texture and the color of the base. It almost looks like a cork board. I am sure that it is not a cork board. They probably just threw in some texture instead of just having it be the metal. Although I really like this, and these are great stands. They are outstanding stands already. I do wonder what the price of the DS3 is going to be. If it's the same, I would guess it's probably the same as the DS2, about $90. But if they could lower the price a little bit, that would even be better. Ooh, here we go.
Podcasters and streamers will also be thrilled to learn about a simple but powerful new way to bring their brand into the studio. This is the PodMic Flag. Designed specifically for the Rode PodMic and compatible with the WS14 pop filter, these customizable microphone flags allow you to display your own logo or artwork.
So for a couple of years now, Rode has released these windscreens for PodMics, which are pretty cool because they work really well, and they're also available in some really cool colors, or just traditional black if you want to keep things discreet. But these are a fun way to just add in personality, color, but also branding. If you have a specific color associated with you or your brand or your company or whatever, you can do that with your microphone. Now being able to add on a mic flag is also a pretty cool way to do that. I've seen a lot of podcasts lately use similar things for SM7Bs. They're kind of like box flags that go on the bottom here, and they have logos. And I actually hate the way that those look. I think that they just look very, very awkward and kind of like a cheap add-on. But I gotta say, I think Rode did a good job here of making this actually look like a decent addition to the microphone. It doesn't look unnatural. It looks like it actually complements it. Now, I am curious how you customize it.
Simply design and print your own sticker, and within minutes, you can add a professional broadcast look to any setup.
So I guess the answer is you just make your own sticker and stick it on the thing, and it's a piece of plastic, which then leads me to wonder, could you just design and 3D print your own? If only somebody had 3D printers available. And now we're going to jump into the last product announcement in this video, which is the one that I'm the most nervous about, but I do understand why Rode wants to do this, and I'll kind of talk about that after we figure out what it is.
Finally, one of the biggest advancements ever seen in podcast production is here. Introducing Rodecaster Studio, an intelligent podcast production application designed to transform how spoken word content is edited and published.
So we're getting into the world of AI workflows. We're getting into intelligent editing, but at the same time, we are also trying to make podcast and audio editing more accessible to more people, which makes sense. And I think there's also another component, again, that I'll talk about in a second that I think is actually pretty cool and unique. But let's hear more about Rodecaster Studio.
Rodecaster Studio combines professional-grade transcription, speaker recognition, and powerful AI editing tools into one seamless workflow.
Transcription and speaker recognition, I can totally get behind and see the value of.
Import recordings directly from compatible Rodecaster devices, including cloud-synced projects via Rode Cloud, and get straight to work. Once imported, Rodecaster Studio automatically generates highly accurate transcripts with word-level timing and speaker identification, making
cool.
it easy to navigate and edit long-form conversations.
Super useful.
Advanced in-painting tools allow words or phrases to be corrected naturally, preserving tone and cadence without re-recording.
This is now where it's all about the coulda, not about the shoulda.
With transcript-based editing, you can refine dialogue simply by editing the text. And with the voice-powered Rode Assistant, complex editing becomes as effortless as a voice prompt. Trim intros, remove filler words, generate highlight clips, or create alternate edits, all from a single recording.
Transcript-based editing is not something that's new. And if you look at the interface there, if you've ever used Descript, the Rodecaster Studio interface kind of looks a lot like Descript, and I'm wondering if it's just that technology sort of baked into it, or whatever the technology behind Descript is. I don't know. I don't know if it's an original technology or a licensed technology, but it looks really similar to Descript, which is a tool that I used for a long time to do captions in my YouTube videos because it was just more accurate than YouTube's captions. But I canceled my Descript subscription about a year ago because the app became so clunky, it became more expensive, and then they just kept throwing in AI stuff everywhere, which I did not like and was not into at all. And so looking at this, transcript-based editing actually makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about maybe people who aren't used to traditional editing workflows. Someone who starts a podcast, especially someone who finds themselves in a situation for their job where it's like now they've taken on the communications component, they're putting together a podcast, they don't know how to edit, but now they have to edit the thing. Being able to just look at a transcript with the words and then cut out the words, and that actually then cuts out the audio, that's actually very cool. Or even, moving things around, basically cutting and pasting text, changing the audio. That is a way that a lot of people have learned to edit podcasts and at least dip their toes in the world of editing. Where things get concerning to me, though, is then when you start playing with stuff that was not actually recorded. When you start not just adding in even just a filler word. Sometimes, if you have a very highly produced show and there's just like a transition word that was left out or mispronounced, like I just did, and you can just go in and quickly retype that and it changes it with that person's voice, and it's just one little word and one little thing. I can kind of see the benefit to that, although personally I think that part of the skill of editing is learning how to work around those limitations if you can't re-record or redo something. But now we're talking about the ability to record something, have it analyzed, and then if you want to change something or add in totally new phrases, entirely different lines, you can just type it and do text to generative voice, and supposedly it matches. And that is a thing that I don't like, and I don't want people to get comfortable using that in their podcast workflows because I don't want to listen to it.
When it's time to publish, Rodecaster Studio automatically prepares your content for platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Now, Road Central actually already does this, which is really cool. You can import your stuff and you can select the service you're going to upload it to, and it will automatically adapt everything specifically for that service, which is super helpful, something I've used for many years. And now they've just also incorporated it here, which is very cool.
With optimized export settings and automated title and summary generation.
This again, we're talking about AI stuff. Don't use generated AI titles and summaries because they're usually not great. And even if they're kind of accurate, I think when people start using them for the first time, they're kind of blown away by wow, it really picked up on what we talked about. And using summaries for things like Zoom meetings, you can go into a Zoom meeting and you can have a summary sent to you. I think that's actually pretty helpful. This person said this happened next, everyone agreed to meet next week about whatever. That can be helpful, but that's not something that's going to be shared for other people to spend their time consuming. When you're dealing with summaries and titles for your own show, even if the information is accurate, it very rarely is going to be in your voice. And more than likely, it's actually going to be in the same tone and the same voice as everybody else's AI-generated titles and descriptions. And so the thing that you're making is now just it's going to feel like the slop that is just thrown in with everything else, even if it's not. Even if your episode is start to finish, every second of it is, handcrafted, not AI-generated. It's something you spent your time writing, editing, producing, all the stuff. Which if you do that, why would you then just not go further and do your own description? But if for some reason you didn't and you did an AI description, that's actually kind of undermining the other work that you have done. Same thing goes with titles. You can scroll through YouTube now on any given day and just see video titles that are obviously AI generated. Even if the videos themselves are not, it has that type of phrasing, that type of framing that makes sense in an AI world, but does not make sense to a human brain-based world. And this is actually the end of the announcements, and this is everything that they're announcing and that they've brought out, which is pretty cool. But this is what I wanted to kind of save for the end, which especially when it comes to Rodecaster Studio, kind of my theory on what they're going for here. So even though I'm not crazy about the generative AI tools being included, the other stuff I think is actually very helpful. And what I think Rode is trying to do, what they've been working towards for a number of years now, and I think they've officially done, is I think they're the only system, the only ecosystem, the only brand in the world where you can do from start to finish hardware and software in the same ecosystem. And I think Rodecaster Studio was kind of the last piece because you can get all of your hardware. You can get Rode microphones mounted into Rode mic arms, running Rode cables into Rode interfaces and audio recorders. You can have things on Rode mic arms and mic stands. You can monitor them with Rode headphones. And I really don't think that there is another brand out there that has that level of completion in their ecosystem. And the only place where Rode kind of was falling short was then once you've created stuff with all that gear, what do you do with it? You could import it with Rode software, but then you throw it into your other editor, into your other software, and you finish it over there. Now with Rodecaster Studio, you can edit your podcasts right there, at least your audio-only podcasts right there, and publish them from right there. So that is kind of cool if you think about it. From start to finish, every bit of your workflow can be within one single ecosystem. And Rode, I think other companies have tried to sort of do that, but the place where everybody falls short is in long-term support. And with Rode, I'm actually kind of thinking of doing a video that's all retrospective about the Rodecaster Pro 2, because that thing has gotten 15 firmware updates over the 4 years it's been released. And that's a thing most other podcast mixers get like 1 or 2 updates ever, and then they're forgotten about. So even though there's things I don't like about Rodecaster Studio, you can pretty much bet that it's something Rode is going to continue to evolve and support. And the reason that I'm saying the things I don't like about it is because Rode does have a history of listening to customer feedback and opinions and kind of focusing on the features that people want and don't want. So I'm sharing my opinion, hoping that maybe they'll listen to that. But if everybody loves all the AI stuff, then they should say that they love it so that Rode continues to make the thing that they want to make. But that's kind of where I think they're going with this. And if you think about the fact that they own their own factories, it's very much like it is a pretty unique situation that's pretty cool. And it seems like a lot of these product announcements are kind of the last step in finishing out that start to finish Rode workflow. I guess you could also say it was the end of a long road to get to that level of things. Okay, we're done.